This episode of Film Riot is brought to you by Domain.com.
Today, we dive into some green screening. Welcome to Film Riot, the show that takes mystery out of the effects techniques, going to some of your favorite Hollywood films. I'm your host, Ryan Conley, and we have discussed green screening on the show before, but since then, we have upped our techniques a bit, and after a few requests looking for an updated look at green screen work, like this one from yesterday, I know you've done it before, but can you remake a how-to for green screen, please? So, yes. First thing is first, what do you use as your backdrop? You have green screen or blue, or any other super bright color for that matter, so why would you use one over the other? Main reason that I use green over blue is because digital cameras are more sensitive to green with how it samples color, and the blue channel is the one that gets most of that noise and nastiness from your image, which we showed in an older episode. You can see here with the green channel on the left versus the blue channel on the right, the blue is getting far more noise. Green is also less common in clothing, so that's helpful as well, but there are times when you would want blue. For us, whenever we do a Christmas episode, the elf suits are green, so we use the blue screen instead of our green screen to be able to key that out properly. But other than that, I'm always on green since it works a touch better for digital. The actual screen that I use is a super low cost solution I got from Amazon. It comes with a 10x12 screen and the stands to hang it up. If you need something to take around with you that's easily mobile, one of my favorites is the Chroma Pop from Digital Juice. Pops out nicely, has a green and blue side, and folds up easy to travel with. I say folds up easy, but for whatever reason, Josh is the only one that can do it. But now we have our screen selected and set up, so we light it. And all you need to know here is that you need to evenly light your screen as evenly as possible. Evenly light your screen. Evenly? He gave me a thumbs up, so we're good. Now, if you don't have enough lights, just make sure that it's evenly lit behind where your talent is. We can always mask around the rest later on. And here is the reason. Here's a screen lit unevenly. We have a shadow spot over here, a hot spot here, and when we bring it into key, this is what we get. Then you will be fighting this different tonality in the background to get a solid key the entire time, and you might even end up having to just do roto. So just be sure to get it as even as possible all the way across, which a good way to do that is by using your waveform and zebra if you have one. With that on, it'll show you where you have hotspots so you can adjust accordingly. I also like to use cooler lights on my screen and warmer lights on my actors, so I'll light my screen with LED lights and my subject with tungsten balance lights. Moving on to camera settings, two things you want to keep in mind here, and that would be shutter and ISO. For shutter, if you keep it too low, of course you're going to get some motion blur like you see on the hand here. So when you bring it in and try to key it, you will end up with this gross smudgy area. So what we do to minimize this is take the shutter up a bit. Our normal shutter would be set around 1/48 of a second, so we try to keep it more towards the 70 or 80 range to tighten up the motion blur without it getting too choppy. And you get a much better result. And finally, ISO. As we all know, the higher the ISO setting, the more noise you're introducing into the image. The more noise you introduce to the green screen shot, the more difficult it's going to be to key. We try to keep ours on the native ISO or as close to it as possible, since the higher you go, you get these nastiness, noisiness around the edges, which leads to that difficult key. But now we have our shot together nicely, which means it's time to key. Inside of After Effects, we drop in our shot and then add the keyer of choice. I prefer Primat from Red Giant, but Stark likes to use Keylight, which is built right into After Effects, so no third-party plugins there. Whichever you use, the first thing I do is create a mask around my subject, getting it as close as possible to the subject before cutting off any of the movements. Then I'll select a section of green close to my subject, and we will have our initial key, which of course will need work, and after some tweaking, we'll end up with something pretty solid. I'm not gonna go through all the settings here because we have covered that a few times before, but we aren't finished. We're gonna take a quick break and then get into some more tips to clean this bad boy up. Domain.com is a place to go if you're trying to get yourself seen on the interwebs. You got a business or work, you want to put it on a platter and present it to the world. Domain.com has your back. Get that website up and going. They got the hosting plans that are reliable and affordable. They got the domain discovery service to help you pick the right name for you. And if you use the coupon code FilmRiot at checkout, you get 15% off your domain name and web hosting. When you think domain names, think Domain.com. Oh my God, you didn't interrupt me. Weird. Just...
Are you okay?
Are you planning to murder me?
You're acting really strange. This is normal.
Logo.
Okay, so we have our clip and we are ready to key, and just to stick with plugins that come with After Effects only, no third-party plugins, I'll use Keylight for this. So again, we're gonna mask around the subject, then color pick a green close to them, which gives us something that looks like hell. So then we do our tweaking until we come up with something solid. But here's the main problem, this crazy nastiness happening right here. The reason that we're getting this is because the keyer is pulling out bits of green from our subject as well, which creates this terrible noise dancing around. But we can fix this easily enough. First, we're going to duplicate our footage, and then on the bottom layer, we're going to delete the Keylight plugin from that, so we have it on the first layer, but not the second, leaving the second clean. Then on that second layer, we're going to set the track matte to alpha, and now we have all that nastiness gone. What's happening here is we are using the keyed layer as a matte for the unkeyed layer. So what we are seeing is the untouched video from our subject. A good way to look at this would be right here. Turn the first layer back on and set the view to screen matte, and what we're doing is telling the second layer to ignore the black areas and only let the white portions show through. Now we can pre-comp these two layers together and add our extras to make it blend, like a simple matte choker to bring all that nastiness and edges down a little bit, spill suppressor to get rid of the green from the spill from our background, which I'll often toss in a hue saturation, pick green, set the area of the green I want, and desaturate that as my spill suppressor instead. Then of course there's light wrap, which we will add just a touch of, then color grade the thing as a whole, and we have our final. And there you have it, super simple techniques for better keying. The matte tip is by far my favorite. When Stark showed me that one, I vomited from my brain area. It's so simple and so helpful. But before we bust out this piece, if you missed it, I did a 3-day, 18-hour-long filmmaking class with Creative Live. It's streamed for free all of those 3 days, but if you did miss it or only saw some of it, you can buy all 3 days right now by going to this link here. I covered everything from coming up with an idea to writing the script, going through pre-pro, picking gear, all of production and post-production. Stark even did some VFX lessons as well. We did a lot of stuff live, shot green screen stuff live, keyed it right on the spot. So it's 18 hours of filmmaking goodness, and it comes with a ton of downloads, like some of the footage we shot during the class, my full keynote, and a bunch of other assets. I also bent a C-stand, so there's that. So check that out if you're interested. But that is it for today, and I'll see you guys next week when we find out that they're digging in the wrong place because they only have one half of the amulet.